Hello and welcome to our third Women's Month webinar. And wow, how time is flying. I can't believe this is the last Friday of August. Next Friday we're in September and it's spring and we're racing towards the end of the year. So I hope everybody's on track and on target for achieving their goals for the year. And if you're not, it's still not too late to to correct your focus and make sure by the end of the year that you end of the year on a high note. I want to thank Wealth Migrate for sponsoring the webinars. Wealth Migrate is the leading global real estate marketplace platform selling or marketing real estate on global first world economies. So register on wealthmigrate.com if you want to see what opportunities there are for you to invest in other countries such as America and Australia if you wish to earn first world currencies and first world dividends. I'm Hilda. I'm a business person. I invest in high impact businesses. I'm a traveler. I'm an adventurer. I love experiencing new things all the time, but my most important role is the role of me as being a mother of an 8 and 10-year-old. Children are really very close to my heart because I just see, while I believe that broken children become broken adults, and in our country there's so many broken adults. So where we need to start is making a difference in the lives of children today so that the lives of adults can change tomorrow. And that is why we're talking today to my friend Annelise de Jager. And I want to talk about philanthropy, give everybody a little bit more input in how the industry is working, and maybe find a place where you can make a difference. Hi, Annelise, and thank you so much to be with me today. I really, really appreciate your time.
Hi, Hilda, and everybody out there. I'm delighted to be here.
I met Annelise, we met a few years ago, and I think what drew me to you is before we even really became friends was your passion to make a difference to the less fortunate, and also the angels that take care of those people that need the most. And you're helping me over the last couple of years, and as we became friends and had some interesting and heated discussions about the topic, I believe, to become a better person and to get involved and to open my heart to the things that I believe I'm passionate about. And I really today want to thank you for that role that you play in my life. I just want to quickly read Annelise's bio, and I'm going to read it because when you're friends, you often forget what amazing things the person, the woman, is achieved. So I think I just scared I leave something out. So I just want to quickly read. Annelise started off many years ago, 25 years ago, as a social worker. She studied social work and communication, and she worked in the charity sector for now more than 25 years. She started the former Casual Day in South Africa and ran campaigns successfully for 18 years until the end of 2012. And then she launched Tech Attacks Day in 2013. This is the charity or the organization, fundraising organization that I'm also part of and ambassador of for the children. She's the founder of Legacy Through Charity Trust, which is and she runs a highly successful NGO empowerment program, which we're going to discuss a little bit later. In 2002, Annelise won the Pretoria News Businesswoman of the Year. 2013, she won CEO Award as SME sector for the most influential woman in business and government. I still remember that day like it was yesterday, and it's already 2013. In August 2014, she was announced the country winner for CEO for Africa's most influential woman in business and government. She won the award for a highly successful Tech Attacks campaign, which we'll touch on a little bit later, and her empowerment program for NGOs. Annelise, besides all of the stuff that she does to make the world a better place, also does a lot of traveling, mom to a 15-year-old son. So you're going through the teenage years now, Annelise. And she's an acclaimed speaker, both for charity and business in South Africa. So this is the amazing woman we're going to talk today about charity. And we're going to try and keep it short. We were joking just now before the webinar. If you let us talk about this topic, we can maybe go on for a couple of hours. So we're going to really try and keep our thoughts focused. Annelise, philanthropy and charity. Is there a difference? What's the difference? Just if you can just start if we can start there.
Hi, Hilda. Thanks for your kind words in the introduction. I think it depends on who you ask what the definition is. I've always just seen philanthropy as the longer-term vision, the bigger picture, and charity as the more immediate thing. So you do charity in order to fulfill your philanthropy needs. That's just how I've seen it through the years.
So the charity is the things we do, and philanthropy is the need to be good to humankind, the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
So just to bring it back to South Africa, there's such a big need in our country. I mean, everywhere we go, at traffic light, people are begging, parking lots. Do you think us as South Africans have become desensitized to the needs of people in our country and doesn't want to give anymore? Or what is your perception on that?
Well, first of all, please do not give money to the beggars on the street. It is really not the right thing to do. It's no way to clear your conscience to give money to somebody standing on a street corner, because you've got no idea where that money is going to. For sure, we are being desensitized. There was a study done a while ago on war correspondence and to see how we perceive war through their eyes, and it was found that we see it on a subconscious level as if we're looking at a movie. We don't really realize what it is. It's an exception to the rule, the way the whole world was impacted by the picture of the little boy in Syria that we saw last week. And one of the journalists even said when they interviewed him, I can't understand why everybody's going about this picture so much, because this is what I film every day. I think also for our own survival, we put our heads in the sand, because the reality out there is most often so sad and so extreme that you don't even want to look, and you don't even want to be confronted with all that sadness. I've got a recent case in one of my NGOs where a dad tortured his son. Now, you think for a man, his son, it is his pride and joy, but this dad tortured his son by throwing him up in the air and then not catching him to such a severe extent that the boy sustained brain damage. That's what's going on. I mean, I can give 10 more stories like this, but you must feel when I talk like this, you think, I don't even want to hear this. So we put our heads in the sand about what's going on. One of the NGOs that I work with quite closely is Child Welfare in Bloemfontein. They've got on average about 35 cases per month for child rape. That is only in Bloemfontein and a little bit of the surrounding areas. So, I mean, we can't imagine what's going on. So I think as a part of we don't want to hear really how bad it is. We get involved in our own lives and our own daily struggles, and you kind of know that there's people that need help, and there's things like child abuse and stuff like that, but you don't open yourself fully to the extent of what is going on out there. So we're definitely desensitized about the situation.
But also, so it's more as a self-protection, probably. Not absolutely. That we don't care. It's just that we don't. We need to protect ourselves.
Absolutely, self-protection, and we're all busy, So you hear about things, you say, "Sure, that's bad," and then you carry on. I think it's a way of survival as well.
So, because I know a lot of people, they want to do something, but and without making this a political decision, a lot of people also feel we pay our taxes. Organization or businesses pay their, I think it's social grants to get their BE points. So why should people give more? Isn't it that then the responsibility of governments or governmental departments to make sure, take care of all people, or especially the poor people in the country? Why, if we pay taxes, do we still have to then give more money? Because I'm sure that's what I hear a lot from people.
I feel exactly like you do. You know, we pay so much taxes. Why does it still as well our problem? And in a perfect world, it would be wonderful to say, well, yes, the government should cough up and address the social need out there. But the reality is that it doesn't happen. On average, a welfare organization gets about 30% of their expenses subsidized. Some NGOs get no subsidies at all. And even those that do get subsidies, working with the Department of Social Development is really, really challenging. And most often, subsidies are paid late. There are some provinces where subsidies are even as late as 8 months. Now, how do you sustain your organization that you're supposed to run like a business with a cash flow where you think the subsidy is going to come in, but then it simply doesn't? So the reality out there is that NGOs need to fundraise in order to keep their doors open. I wish it was different, but that's why everybody is doing golf days and morning teas and fundraising here and there and everywhere, because the reality is if they don't, they will not be able to survive.
Wow. So then I want to put to you, if they say charity begins at home, and this tough economic times in South Africa, predictions are it's going to get more tougher for people. And most people can't even get through the month financially. Unemployment's growing. How can South Africans still give when in these, what is your opinion, like in these tough economic times?
There's a lovely example in the Bible of a woman who had nothing, but she used her last bit of oil and her last bit of flour to bake a bread for Elijah. I believe that we all can give. We all should give, and we all should make a difference out there, no matter what your situation is. There's always somebody that's got more than you, and there's always somebody who's got less than you. So some people give a lot, some give less, some give time, some give resources, some give hard-earned cash, but it is a responsibility of all of us that we should give in some or other way. I also think that the solution to this is that the NGO sector should make people aware of the different ways in which they can give. I believe people, and I've seen over many years, that people have got kind hearts. People's got open wallets and purses for cases where people are in need. But it is the NGO's responsibility to make the public aware of what the need is out there.
I'm sure, because you are right to say, once people know what they can contribute and how they can contribute, most often people do. But with so many fundraising activities, we have your amazing Techie Tax Day, which is the end of May every year, 26th of May, I think, next year. We have the CEO Sleepover, and these are major fundraising. I think we hope to raise 10 million through Techie Tax this year that can be distributed amongst charities. With all of these big campaigns, are there other places where South Africans can get involved in?
You know what, there's, according to the Department of Social Development, there's a registration number of just over 200,000 registered NGOs in the country. So surely you can't give to everybody. This is a very, very big black hole. Even with me working in this sector for years and years and years, sometimes I look and I feel I've done so little, because look what the need is out there. So for sure you can't help everybody. But sadly, a lot of people use that as an excuse to help nobody. And I'm saying that the fact you can't help everybody is not an excuse to help nobody. Well, they say that's the reason, but I just think it's an excuse for not getting involved. And I think that you must decide on an amount. What can you afford in your life to give? Every month, every year, every week, whatever the case is. And then give. Find a worthy cause and give, but then give unconditionally. And then when another person comes to you and says, will you please help me? Then you know, I've done my part. I'm really sorry, I can't help you, but I can't help everybody. But the fact that you can't help everybody is not an excuse to help nobody.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to urge or ask the people who's listening in, if there's any questions that you have for Annelise as we go, post them. and then I will handle your questions as we go along with the webinar. So there's so many different aspects of philanthropy and the charity. I just want you to explain to people how the industry is working. Who's the, there's charity organizations, there's fundraisers. Just give us a broad outline of how this whole industry or sector has been put together.
Well, I think it depends on what do you as a donor want to give and what do the charity need. So to get that perfect marriage between I want to give X, Y, and Z, and here is an organization that need X, Y, and Z. I think that's the trick of the trade, if I can call it that. Part of my work through the NGO Empowerment Program is to teach my NGOs to portray their work in such a way that there is a little place for various people with various needs to become involved in their organization.
Okay. Typically, who gets involved in the charities, in the work, the fundraisers? Do you find a certain type of person or a certain gender who typically starts saying, okay, I'm going to make a difference?
It's mostly women. I don't know if I must say sadly mostly women, but it is mostly women that is involved. In my experience, it is more often than not, it is middle-class people that are getting involved. But you've got a lot of schools that are involved in some or other charity work. It's wonderful to see that our schools nowadays have got more charity drives than what they did when I was in school 100 years ago. We've got a lot of students getting involved. I was at Irene Homes just yesterday for a project, and Irene Homes is a residential facility for adults with mental disabilities. And a whole bunch of students rocked up while I was there, and they were playing sport with these adults with intellectual disability. It was just beautiful to see. So there's a strong drive also amongst students studying various things like social work, psychology, occupational therapists, physiotherapists. There's lots of students that are involved. But the short answer is that anyone can and anyone should get involved in some or other charity work.
Oh, it's against that what you give comes back to you, and that I find I get so much more back just from the little that I give. So it's a rewarding and it's a good feeling to know that you've made a difference. In doing sports, we took my kids to America the end of last year, and they played baseball with also handicapped, physically and mentally handicapped children, and I think that totally shifted their lives. My daughter came and asked me, what do I need to learn from this? And for me, it's like the world's bigger than you. It's not all about you. There is a lot of, you can give back just by throwing a ball at someone that can barely hold a baseball bat. It's for you to give back to, and that's what people can do. So talking about that, the different ways of giving back. A lot of people say, I have a job, I work long hours, and I'm sure you've heard it all, why people can't give. Tell me about the different ways so that people can maybe find opportunities where they never thought of. They can, so that the excuse of I can barely make it through the month myself, or I don't have the time. How can people give?
Well, I've said that the fact that you can't help everybody is not an excuse to help nobody. But I also believe that if you've got the ability to give, you've also got the responsibility to give. It is simply a lame excuse to say, well, I don't have time. But maybe people say that because they feel overwhelmed by the need out there. Let's start with skills. There's such a need for skills in the charity sector. We need auditors. We need people with business expertise that can serve on the board of a charity organization. We need fundraisers to organize a golf day or a morning tea as a fundraising event. We need a psychologist to assess children who's just been removed from their parents. The other day I spoke to an NGO and they said to me, it is so sad for them that they've got the ways and means to look after the physical needs of children, but not their emotional needs. We need physiotherapists, we need a dentist, we need doctors. So any skills that you have that you can add value to an organization, that is what we need. But we also need people with just time. Maybe maybe you feel, I don't think it's true, but maybe you feel that you don't have any specific skill. We need people who's got time. People that can go to an old age home and just sit and interact with our older people. People that can take the dogs for a walk in an animal shelter. Just people that can maybe read a story to the children in a children's home. We also need products. We need stationery in our children's, in our charity organizations. We need somebody to pay the petrol, somebody to pay electricity, somebody to pay the telephone bill. You know, a charity organization is most often, it's got the same needs as what you have in your home. So we need stuff. We need a cartridge for the printer in order for it to work. And then lastly, but most importantly, we need money. We need hard-earned cash. Hilda, if I can ask you, what do you think is the biggest expense in any business?
Yeah, it's running your staff expenses. And I would imagine that would be the same.
Absolutely. Well, in a charity, it is exactly the same. The biggest expenses out there is salaries. The problem with it is that we started charity in this country anyway as volunteers who came together to do some good. But we've moved on from that, although that culture is still so embedded within us that we've got, even on a subconscious level, we think that people who works for charity has got to do it free of charge. Now, I wish that was possible. But the reality is that I've also got to make a living. You've got people who work in charities who are professional people who studied for 4 years at university to be able to do their jobs. How dare you think that they should work for free? A psychologist, a nurse, a social worker, an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist. I've met thousands of these people over the years, and I know that if they could, they would do it for free. But the reality is that both you and me need to pay the electricity bill at the end of the month, and our children's school fees need to be paid, and we need petrol for our cars. I mean, if we move away from the professional people who we've got lots of, just think about the cleaners. Why should you not pay a cleaner who's cleaning a charity organization, but you're willing to pay a cleaner that's cleaning your house? So we need hard-earned cash to pay the millions of amazing people out there that is doing a job that none of us would be able to do.
And I must agree with you. I mean, I've been to Meals on Wheels, a lot of these charity places, and it is amazing people doing amazing things, and we don't even realize the things that they're doing for people that can't do it for themselves, and they're truly the real angels, I think, of society.
They do it under very, very difficult circumstances. Most often in areas that really, you know what, I'd rather do my job than their job. I won't last a week doing what they're doing. The logo in my personal logo has got a starfish in it. And it's really because of the story of the starfish. Maybe you know it, but let me share it with you. There's a story about two guys that was walking on the beach, and there were thousands of starfish that was spilled out onto the beach. And this one guy was walking, and as they were strolling, he was picking up a starfish and throwing it into the sea. And then once again, picking up another one and throwing it into the sea. And after a while, his friend said to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm throwing a starfish back into the sea." And his friend said, "Well, you can't in a million years save them all." He said, "Yeah, I know, but I can save this one." Sometimes we do good. We don't see the immediate effect of the good that we did. But I can assure you today that NGOs, our charity organizations, are the glue that keeps society together in this country. And even though you can't always see and aren't always be directly involved in seeing the end result of your goodwill, if it was not for the charities in this country, society would fall apart.
I agree 100% with you. We've seen all the need that's there and the sad stories. So this is a conversation you and I have had many times, in more about my skepticism. Who do you support? You hear all these stories of fraudsters, fundraisers. How do I know the money I give, if I give money, goes to the people that need it, or goes to the right, goes to where I intended to go? What do I need to look for? What do people that want to get involved need to look for? What's the questions they need to ask to ensure their hard-earned cash that we were talking about now actually goes to where it's supposed to go?
I believe that if you have the ability to give, you have also with it got the responsibility to give in a responsible way. And I strongly believe that we will be held accountable one day for how we have spent our talents and our time and our money that we have to our disposal. I get so angry and frustrated with people who are in positions where they can make a huge difference, but they are most often simply just too lazy and don't care enough to use the platform that they have to really, really make a big impact. So the questions that you should ask is this organization that you want to support a registered NPO? NPO stands for non-profit organization. It is a registration that you do at the Department of Social Development, and every NGO or charity should have an NPO. But please bear in mind that this is a free registration. It doesn't cost you any money. You fill in a couple of forms and off you go. And this is not a foolproof way of knowing that an organization is accountable and worthy to support. An organization should also be registered as a PBO. That stands for a public benefit organization. And that is a registration that you do with SARS. It is slightly more difficult and slightly more complicated. So it is better if an organization is also a PBO. And then the obvious things, an organization should have audited financial statements. It should have an annual report. It should have an annual general meeting and proof of an annual general meeting every year. But more than those almost clinical things, I want to say that you need to look at the people behind the organization. I have seen organizations where the cause is so worthy, but the people behind running that organization, my values just didn't align with them. And then I choose not to support that organization, because the organization will be as good or as bad as the people running it, the people behind it. But then once you have found that organization whose values align with yours, an organization that support a sector of society where your heart lies, whether it is, like in your case, children, somebody else might say, you know what, my heart lies with animals. If I can tell you so many stories about what's happening in terms of animals in our country, and it is horrific. So maybe you want to support people with disabilities, but make sure that you find an organization that is close to your heart, that ticks all the blocks in terms of the legalities, but then also look at the people behind it and know that you can trust them. Once you find that, you need to give unconditionally.
Yeah.
We've got too many people who say, I will give, but I will only give a TV. I've had an NGO a while ago. It was a welfare organization in the field of people with mental disabilities. And she said, we've got so many TVs in our home, we don't know where to put them. But we do not have the money to pay the salary of the staff member that needs to switch the TV on and off. because our people are so disabled they can't do it for themselves. We've got nobody to pay for our security, because our NGO sadly is a very soft target for break-ins and for security issues. And then I think it was merely 2 weeks after our conversation, there was a break-in at the NGO. The staff were held at gunpoint, the night staff, and all the TVs were stolen because she didn't have security. So we need to give unconditionally. We need to trust the organization once we chose them, that they will use the money where they know it is best, they need to use it in the best possible way.
You are doing amazing work to educate charities to think like businesses. I want you to tell us a little bit more about that. And I would imagine, you know, we all, when we grow our businesses, we learn about the abundance mindset. But I would imagine the people that you have to train see the worst side of life, and they see scarcity, and they see the not having. How do you train an abundance mindset? Or what do you train them? Just talk us a little bit more through your wonderful work with the NGOs.
I'm so glad you're using that word, because the word abundance is my all-time favorite word. I believe there's an abundance of goodwill out there, an abundance of resources, an abundance of money out there. So abundance is surely my most favorite word. But then when I talk to my NGOs, they say to me, when I stand in the middle of an informal settlement and I'm surrounded by poverty, where is the abundance? And then I will take you to Camps Bay, and I will say to you, where is the poverty? Whether you see abundance or not depends on where you stand. And if you stand, either literally or figuratively, in an informal settlement surrounded by poverty, it doesn't mean that there's not abundance out there. There is. My NGO empowerment program stands on 4 legs. The first one is people. I believe if you don't have passionate people to run an organization, then none of the tools that I give them will be successful, because you need people to make it a reality. The second leg is terrific technology. There's a very high level of how will I put it, of people working in our NGOs who don't use technology to its fullest potential. Most often, and I know I generalize at the moment, but most often our NGOs are people who are so passionate about the work that they do, but they don't have the necessary skills. So part of my job in that program is to give them the necessary technology tools to use. And then I believe that every NGO must have a magic marketing strategy, not a note in the local newspaper to say, oh, my golf day is next week and I haven't sold all my tickets, please help, or please help, I'm closing my doors, I don't have any money. That's not a strategy, but a real marketing strategy, which I believe the most important reason for it is for the public to trust you as a welfare organization. Because if I might align with what you do, I might know about you, I might think the work you do is very good, but if I don't trust you, I won't give you any money. So there is a responsibility on our NGOs to market and present themselves in a way that the public will know this is a trustworthy organization, accountable and governed in the best possible way. And then the last leg of my empowerment program is fearless fundraising. But fundraising really is the end result of the other 3. Your fundraising will never be successful if you don't have people, you don't understand technology, and you don't have a marketing campaign. So successful fundraising, I see, is the end result of the other 3. So this is a 12-month program that I run with my NGOs. Most of them extended into a second year, so it kind of at the moment looks more than a 24-month program, where I see them once a month and I do various things for them. And it is clearly one of the many opportunities out there for people to get involved with and to sponsor, is to part sponsor an NGO to become a program. And I say part sponsor because I believe that even if there is a sponsorship for an NGO, they still also need to pay something because they need, otherwise they won't value it. So, you know, that's just one of the many opportunities where individuals can get involved, is to sponsor or part sponsor an NGO to become involved in that program.
That you train them on are things we as business people take for granted. You know, it's these skills that we.
It is simple business skills. You're absolutely right, Hilda. It is simple business skills as say financial systems, good governance, how to work with the board, leadership. I work a lot on leadership, and I work a lot on personal development. Because if I can't grow you, your organization will never grow. If I can't stretch your boundaries, push you out of your comfort zone, then nothing great will happen in your organization.
So you mentioned earlier on, I just want to move on. Sorry, I've got a lot of questions still for you. You said earlier on it's mainly women that engage in the charities or in philanthropy. Where's the men? Is it not something men can do or should do?
Of course, men should, but I think traditionally men are seen as the breadwinners and women stay at home and they do. So, but there clearly is. There's no excuse for a man not to be involved in some kind of charity work.
Yes, or not really.
Sorry, Hilda, just say that again.
You see a change in the trend where more men are moving towards or doing it with their wives or with women, or not really?
No, I don't see that really. Also working in the charity sector as well, there's not a lot of men. And I think the reason for that is most often because the salaries in the charity sector is just very, very bad. And a lot of men will not be able to support their families on the salaries that they will earn in the charity sector. I think there's lots of men that might want to work in a charity sector, but just simply can't afford that salary. But on average, I see a lot more women. Even if I look at Tacky Tax and my contact list of thousands of people in companies who participate in Tacky Tax, it is mainly women's names who are on the list.
We're going to get to that now because I want to get more to the business angle. In the last 3 years, the saying business is a force for good is really taken off into mainstream first world countries, America, Britain, and Richard Branson is a disciple for business as a force for good, and even say if your business doesn't make a massive impact to the planet and people, you don't have a business. So we see this trend growing where businesses align their brands and their business with something that they stand for, which then align with a charity or some cause. And these businesses everywhere in the world are growing at far more than the non-businesses who doesn't stand for something. And I'm just wondering why we don't really see that trend taking off. And there's a company that for every coffee you buy, they'll sponsor a glass of water for a child in a country with no water. So if you have 2 cups of coffee to choose from, you're going to choose the one that makes it that you feel you can make a difference through. Tom Shoes, who gives for every pair of shoes you buy, gives a pair of shoes for a child who don't have shoes, are currently, I think, way over $300 million revenue, because that's why people would rather, if I have 2 same shoes, I'm going to support the shoe that makes a difference. I don't see that as even part of companies' brands or company strategies where this becomes part of a company's DNA. Do you think South Africa businesses are a little bit, or will catch up to the rest of the world? Because I believe it's the ones that starts first with standing for something that will gain their business, or that will gain the ears of consumers. What do you think?
Well, I wish everybody was as socially conscious as Richard Branson, and maybe that is one of the reasons why his companies are just exploding all over in the world and being so successful, because of the way that he's thinking. Sadly, I see that as not being the case in most South African businesses. We have some South African businesses who really want to give and who really want to make a difference in what they're doing. But there are others, and with what I'm working with, the majority of companies that I work with, where people just say, you know what, just give me the BEE documents, give me the Article 18A certificate, and because I've got to get on with life. But there are others. I can just mention Clicks. I've been working with Clicks very closely in my Tacky Tax campaign. What an awesome organization to work with, because they really, really care. So, you know, it's not only the one side. We've got both sides of the coin, but we've still got a lot to grow. I think it depends on the leadership behind that company, because that leadership will change things and will set the culture and the tone for this in that specific company. What is also happening?
Things change. That companies can see that they can actually make money and do good. That's
Absolutely.
Not a
what is also happening, Hilda, is that a lot of companies start their own NGOs. Now, for me, that is very sad, because it shows me that they don't trust the existing NGOs out there. And they start their own NGOs and their own trusts, where again, they've got to appoint people to do the work, where they've got to trust somebody in the end anyway. But somehow they feel safer if they trust their own staff than to trust an outside NGO. I don't think we must keep on opening NGOs in the country. We're duplicating services and we're pushing up expenses. I think we need to look at where is an organization that can align with my values, align with what my company stands for, and then put your weight and your energy in there instead of duplicating or reinventing the wheel, really.
Maybe they just don't know where to go, or they don't know what all the charities are.
Give them my number.
Yeah. So that's why you on the planet, is to help those organizations, to align them. I can align the branding and you can align them with the organizations to make a difference. So with more women in leadership roles, and we see the 30-30-30 of where 30% of boards and 30% of senior managers is women or should be women, do you see that coming through in the philanthropy or decisions companies make, or still not really?
I think traditionally women have always been on the softer side of things and men on the business, more hardcore side of things. But the genders are moving closer to each other. So I don't think we can say anymore that women are softer and men, women give and men don't, because the genders are moving closer. It's more about the individual difference than about a gender difference for me.
Okay. To get back to you, the person behind Tacky Tax Day and behind legacy, your legacy through charity, what role does your family play in your philanthropy journey?
My family is 100% behind me, and I would not have been able to do what I do if it was not for my husband and child giving me the freedom to do that. I once hosted one of my charities at home. She was staying over for a function that we had early the next morning, and while we were having dinner, my husband is working in the big corporate world, and she was chatting up my husband to sponsor them at their organization. And my husband said no, and this woman said, but please, we need this and we need it. What are you doing for charity? She asked my husband. And without thinking, my husband said, I give my wife. I just listened to the conversation, but it happened many years ago, but it still stays with me because in a way, he was right. He is giving his wife because I most often have to travel a lot. Sometimes even though I am at home, my head is somewhere else. Like yesterday, I was confronted with a really, really bad case of child abuse, and it impacts on me personally. And I think then, my head isn't where it should be. My son has got a very soft heart and a very giving nature. The other day, I said to him, I've got to travel. I know you're writing exam, but I've got to go to Cape Town and do some stuff there. And he said to me, are you going to work or are you going for a holiday? And I said, no, my love. I have got to go and work. And he said, well, if it's for work, then it is okay, because I know that you're going to help other people. So he's got a very soft heart, and they're 100% behind me.
So what legacy do you want for yourself and your family?
My slogan is living a life that matters. So if I feel that if my life doesn't matter, why was I here? If the world is not in some small way better off once I'm gone, then why did I live if I didn't make a difference? I feel extremely strong about that. I believe that being average serves nobody. If all of us can live extraordinary lives, just imagine how much more fabulous the whole world would be. I believe that I want to be successful in whatever I do, because my success helps everybody, where my failure helps absolutely nobody. So I very strongly believe in walking the extra mile to be successful, because that will add value to your life. And in the same way, if you walk the extra mile in whatever business you are involved with, it will add value to my life as well.
Wow. So how did you I want to know how you became a person with this vision. You started off as a social worker many years ago, and social workers, and I'm going to generalize, are not really known for big thinkers or big vision or thinking that they can do what you're doing. How did you get from there to, and what factors attributed or contributed to your success in your chosen field?
The short answer, and I don't know how to put it different than to say that I believe this is where God has put me. If you look at my life, which we don't have the time to go into the detail, I really believe that He chose this path for me long before I chose it. When I had to choose a career many years ago, I had to think between studying drama. I mean, look at for extremes: studying drama on the one side and studying social work on the other side. So I chose social work, but I still love the theatre, and I go to the theatre every month. It was my New Year's resolution this year to do the theatre once a month. In fact, I was there last night, and it really adds value to my life. But I believe, and because I believe that I am where God wants me to be. That is why I've been successful. I've always been successful in what I've done. I've always made a difference, and I'm proud to say that I've done some groundbreaking work in terms of charity in South Africa and the way we look and think of charity. And there's still lots of stuff that I want to do, but I'm here because this is what I need to do. This is my calling in life.
Wow. So what do you think in leadership? I'm going to skip some questions because we're running out of time. Is a significant barrier to female leadership?
I think balance. I think it is difficult for a woman to balance personal life and work life. Balance is very important for me, especially now that I'm getting older. To balance between the corporate monster and the needs of your family at home is not that easy. So although some corporates make exceptions for women, your bigger corporates, I've seen too many times where women just get sucked up by this corporate monster and they are not there for their families. And as much as I believe that women should be in leadership roles in companies, I also believe that you also need to be a mother to your children. Because if you're not, where's society going? You also need to be a wife to your child, and you also have to make sure that you fulfill those needs in the family and play your part in the family. I mean, just like your husband has got to play his part still as a father. He can't just be swooped up by the corporate world and neglect his responsibilities as for being a father. Now the same goes for women. So for me, I think the biggest challenge is balancing.
I think in a few of the previous webinars we discussed that, and it's potential why a lot of women go into starting their own businesses so that they can find that balance. And that, I guess, is the challenge of businesses and organizations, is to create or to be involved in creating that balance for especially women, as more and more women enters the work life and business life. What woman inspires you and why?
I would have to say Madam Secretary. Do you watch the series on TV? It's currently on its back. I love that series because it is about the art of balancing a very important job as well as family life. I identify with strong women who put their emotions aside to tackle a challenge and to make a difference. So on the one side, still being feminine and still being a woman, but to put your emotions aside, to tackle the problem and not the person. The act of balancing. Yeah, I love Madam Secretary.
And she manages this out, it's like it's a story, but she manages with amazing support of her husband.
Yeah, and she's beautiful and thin as well, so what's not, and she's got a beautiful husband, so what's not to like?
For the generation of women behind you that's coming after us, what do you think will their challenges be they have to face, and what's your advice to them?
I think that women and people need to start to read. There is a buffet of knowledge in front of us in terms of the most awesome books or videos on YouTube. But we live in such a fast electronic world that we don't read anymore. Our attention span is so short. I was with my son in Dubai last week, and there was an article in one of the taxis that we used on Pokemon. Now, he is addicted to Pokemon. He loves it. And I said to him, wow, here's an article on Pokemon. Would you not like to read it? And he looked at it and he started reading and he said, sure, but it's so many words. And I'm like, this is something that interests you, I thought it was 2 pages. So we live in such a fast electronic world that we don't read anymore. John DeMartini say you cannot put your hand in the honey jar without some of it sticking. There is a book, in fact, there is a zillion books on each and every question or need that you have in your life. I mean, how many videos have you watched on YouTube about funny cats and cute dogs and people falling into the pool? But how many videos have you watched on YouTube that is of educational value, that can add value to your soul? We are so conscious about the food that we eat, and I love the whole new banding phase that we're in, and we're so conscious about our physical health, but we're not conscious about our emotional and what's going into our heads. So we control what's going into our mouths, but we don't control what's going into our heads. And I would like to shout this from the rooftops, that women need to invest in themselves. You need to spend money on yourself, not only to go to the spa. Yes, that's important as well. But you need to get a coach, get a life coach, a business coach, go on a training course, take the time out to spend time on a webinar like this. You need to fill your own bucket, because if you don't invest in yourself, you don't have enough to give to other people. You can only give if you've got something in you. And most often as women, and this is specifically women, we give and we give and we give, but maybe it's a bit of a guilt complex, we feel guilty if we spend time and money on ourselves. You need to invest money in your own development. And I think the last
came through. That's part of what every woman that I had discussions with, their advice was exactly that, is make yourself important in your own life. personal development. So that's what every woman, and I guess one has to listen to women that has that experience, and this is what we're doing, you're doing, in our own lives to achieve success and to achieve objectives.
Absolutely. You need to, and this is the last thing I want to say, is that you need to work hard and you need to walk the extra mile, because that's the only way that you are going to be successful. We live in such a quick fix society, but you cannot pray for an A in your test, but study for a B. I read this somewhere last week, and I thought this is so beautiful. You can't stop blaming God for work that you didn't do as an individual. It's like, I've got a fabulous business idea, Hilda, and that is, I want to find somebody to go to the gym on my behalf. Do you know that? Do you know somebody? I will pay you. In fact, I will pay you to go to the gym on my behalf. I want you to do push-ups, lots of push-ups, do some exercises for my legs and especially my tummy. The reality is, will it work? Well, it will work for you, it won't work for me. What I'm trying to say is that if you want the benefit, you need to do your own push-ups. You can't shift the responsibility to somebody else. It starts with you. You need to do your own push-ups in order to get the benefit of what you are doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Annelise. We got the last couple of minutes of our hour together. I just want to say to people out there, Techie Tax is 26 May next year. If you want to get involved, if you want to make a difference, Annelise, where can people contact you? Unfortunately, we don't have a slide, but maybe you can just give your number or your website or your email to people if they want to get involved.
You can find Techie Tax at www.takkietax, that's the Afrikaans Takkie with an E, T-E-K-K-I-E tax, at .co.za. And you can find me on my personal website, annelise.co.za. And I'd love to get in contact with you, maybe refer you to a NGO where you can get involved and help you in whatever way, because together I believe we can make a bigger difference than all our individual efforts combined.
Thank you. And so next week, Annelise and I are I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And every year, my giving back is, besides supporting Techie Tax with time and money, is to spend time in the trenches with charity organizations. And I think next Friday we're doing a small little birthday party for 10 mentally handicapped children, which I both almost dread and look forward to at the same time, because there's going to be really sad stories. 5 of the kids were held on by their dad and really had horrific experiences, and it's only just been recently released, and we're going to give them their first birthday party. They've never seen people, and we're going to give them gifts. They've never had gifts. So they've never seen horses or animals. So we're gonna show them that. And I think both of Annelise are already dreading how many tissues we need to take with for the day. I want to thank you for creating that opportunity where I can and make a difference to those kids' lives who had horrific experiences. I mean, we can't talk about it right now, but it was the 2 people who were supposed to be there for them were the 2 people that mostly let them down. And we can just hope from our side that if we show them a little bit of love, a little bit of care, that they see a world, that there's other parts to the world. I want to thank you to that. I'm looking forward to that. And for everybody, I'll write a blog and I'll write my story on that experience the week after. So, and that's what I'm doing. If I can do that, I'm sure there's lots of stuff everybody else, all of you, can do to make the difference to that one starfish's life and make a difference to the world out there. Thank you so much for your time, Annelise. I don't know if there's a last word from you before we say goodbye.
Well, just once again, Hilda, you've said it all. Thank you very much to each and every person out there who's already making a difference. For whatever you do in a big or a small way, thank you. And you might not always get the fuzzy feeling of, wow, I've changed the world, but I believe if you give in a responsible way, you are changing the world. And if you need another way, or if you need a way to give and to make a difference, I'd gladly push you in the right direction and open some doors and connect you with somebody where you can make a difference. So thank you, and may God bless whatever you're doing.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.